That's right, it's Big Lead Sports on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Sirius 210 XM 87. I'm Steve Kyler from Big Lead Sports. I'm my man Richard Fronapfel from theofficepool.com, a great website if you're looking to host, the traditional, remember the sheets you throw on the copier, throw them on everybody's desk. You can do it all online at theofficepool.com. Richard, also a big-time fantasy football guy, so we've got Richard in to help us field some of the calls with you. So if you want to get in, 888-XM-FANTASY, 888-963-2682. As promised, we're going to take a trip over to the Facebook page. So if you want to get in, facebook.com/SiriusXMFantasy. All right, Richard, Michael wants to know, and I'm assuming he means Andre Johnson. He says just Andre. So Andre or Mike Williams, also assuming that to be Mike Williams, Tampa Bay. So let's just throw that out there that way. Andre Johnson, Mike Williams, Tampa Bay down the stretch, and also Kevin Smith or Fred Jackson because of the injury. Who are the guys you would put in the lineup this week?
This week I would go, actually this came up before, the Kevin Smith versus Fred Jackson. I know you went with Fred Jackson. I think I'd actually go with Kevin Smith, basically just because of the matchup and because, I'm not sure how healthy Fred Jackson is. And as I think it was Kurt was mentioning earlier, he's on the other side of 30. So I think Kevin Smith is your better matchup for this week. I think going forward, Fred Jackson for sure. Andre Johnson versus Mike Williams. It really remains to be seen how effective Johnson's going to be with Leinart at the helm. So Mike Williams may be a safer bet, but bigger upside with Andre Johnson.
Especially as teams are going to try to pack the box on Houston and say, Matt Leinart beat us. I think he's got the tools to do it. I think you look at his arm. He's proven he's got the arm. I think he's a little more mature in this situation. There's not a huge amount of expectation. He's got good weapons around him. I think there's a scenario there where Matt Leinart could have a very big day. Somebody had thrown out earlier in the program, he was available of all the quarterbacks they were looking for. I'm going, you know what? That might be the smartest play right there. I mean, it's a dare to be great play. You could end up with a 10-point day out of Matt Leinart and be really disappointed. But you could also end up with a good 20-point game as teams just say, look, we're going to try to take the box or take the runaway and jam up the box. So I kind of agree with you. There might be greater upside on Andre Johnson. But with Mike Williams, Tampa Bay, he showed up last week. I think that's the only thing you can say about him is he showed up last week. Will he show up this week? That one I can't guarantee for you. I just really can't. All right, Richard, let's head out to the phones. We'll get some more phone calls in before we get to the Fantasy Fix at the bottom of the hour here. Let's go to John in Washington. John, it's Big Lead Sports. How can we help you?
Hi, I've got Chris Johnson on my team, and he hasn't done anything yet, really, this year, even against soft defenses like the Colts. But there's Ingram on the waiver wires. I was wondering which one has more potential for the rest of the year.
Sadly, probably Ingram. I don't know that I really believe that, but I'm really down on Chris Johnson for a whole lot of reasons. It just seems like there's a blame game thing going on in Tennessee. With Matt Hasselbeck potentially being injured, you've got Jake Locker on the field. I like what I saw to Jake Locker last week. I think maybe he's got some ability. If you don't have a quarterback that can move the chains, then you're 3 and out. And if you're 3 and out and you're only getting 2 yards a carry, eventually they're going to do something else. And that's my problem with Chris Johnson is it's not that he's not getting opportunities, he's getting all the opportunities in the world, he's not doing anything with them. And I don't know that gets better with Matt Hasselbeck on the bench. I think that actually gets worse. So in my mind, I think Chris Johnson's stock goes down because of the Matt Hasselbeck injury. Some might say, look, they're going to try to run the ball more. Maybe that's where Chris breaks open. I just don't know that they will. You could be playing Javon Ringer. It seems like that's where they went when Chris starts to struggle. But equally, I don't think you're going to get anything major out of Mark Ingram. I wish that were different because we've been high on Mark Ingram all year. But I don't know that you're going to get double-digit production out of Mark Ingram either. I think you're going to get single digits out of either one. I think the guy that has the potential to get in the end zone is Mark Ingram. I don't think that's going to happen with Chris Johnson. So I would give a slight edge to Mark Ingram, but I think you're dealing with bad situation. I don't think that there is a better situation in there either way. Richard, how about you?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's a pick-your-poison situation there. And anybody who's not named Sproles down there in New Orleans is not a lock to do anything well. So if you're asking me who has the better potential upside, I'm going to say it's Ingram, and that's a sad thing to say.
It is, because you probably didn't spend a first-round pick on Ingram.
That's right.
John, thanks for the phone call. Let's go to Joe in Dallas. Joe, what's going on? It's Big League Sports. How can we help you?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
We are good, Joe. What's on your mind?
Hey, I'm in a 14-team PPR league, and I'm needing to fill my I have one wide receiver position to fill, and I'm looking at Torrey Smith, Devarius Moore, or Earl Bennett. And then of the two left over, should I play either of those two over Kevin Smith in my flex position?
No, this is going to be the first time I'm going to tell you play Kevin Smith. I think Kevin Smith gives you more opportunity in your flex position. I'm not sure that there's anybody at that wide receiver spot I like. Richard, how about you?
Of the three, I mean, you have a home run hitter in Torrey Smith more than the other two. And the safest bet might be Earl Bennett. But
Who's
yeah,
going to be quarterback, that's really where I worry about with Earl Bennett. Who's going to be quarterback of that team? You've got a guy that's never thrown a touchdown pass. I worry when Brian Urlacher says, you should take a page out of the Tim Tebow book. That scares me to death if I've got a skill position player for the Chicago Bears that's anybody other than Forte. And I just don't feel like there's going to be any real production there. Richard?
You bring up an excellent point, but I'm not sold on Denarius Moore. So I guess of the three, I'd have to go with Torrey Smith.
Like I said, I don't like any of those guys there. I see single-digit production out of all three of those guys. And the only way that those guys get out of single digits is if they get in the end zone. And so you're talking about, 3 touches, 5 targets, and maybe a chance at the red zone? I just don't know that there's real points there. So, Joe, I wish we could be better help on you there. If you were telling me these are the only 3 I've got, maybe I would put Torrey Smith in there and then Earl Bennett, and not feeling Denarius Moore at all. And absolutely, I'm starting Kevin Smith at the flex. So thanks for the phone call there. Let's get one more in before we let Richard get out of here. Jake in Wisconsin. You've got Richard Fronapfel from theofficepool.com with you. Welcome to Big League Sports. How can we help you?
Guys, I need 2 quick answers here. I'll give them to you real quick. Vernon Davis or Owen Daniels. And I'm starting Vincent Jackson and Calvin Johnson. I need a wide receiver 3 between Laurent Robinson and Michael Crabtree.
Laurent Robinson.
Yeah, Laurent
Right,
Robinson.
I'm not even going to have to think hard about that one.
Yeah.
And your first one was Vernon. What was the first part of your question?
Daniels or Vernon Davis.
Vernon Davis.
What about Matt Moore or Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Ooh. Look, I like what Milwaukee. I like what Miami is doing, but I don't know that it has anything to do with Matt Moore. There's just a lot of good things coming together. It's kind of like Denver. A lot of good things coming together in Denver that doesn't have anything to do with really, good production. For me, I'm probably going Fitzpatrick in that one. It's not a good matchup for Fitzpatrick, but I think you're going to get better production out of Fitzpatrick, even in a bad matchup, than you will out of Matt Moore. Richard?
Yeah, I'd actually go Matt Moore in that one, but it's a close.
Yeah, you're talking 15 points from one guy, 14 points from the other.
That's right. I mean, Fitzpatrick had fits against the Jets 3 weeks ago, and it's going to be the same this week. And neither of them have favorable matchups. So if you have to go with one, I would give a very, very slight edge to Matt Moore.
Jake, thanks for the call, my friend. All right, Richard, good stuff as always. How is your fantasy team doing? Your fantasy teams, are you in the playoff hunt?
I am definitely in the playoffs. In my league that I was doing best in, I met with the other number 1 last week, and I changed my quarterback at the last minute, and it kept me from winning. So, I had my first loss in a long time, but I'm definitely in the playoffs.
Yeah, unfortunately, on the Serious Experts League, I am an embarrassment. I am a sad embarrassment. But it was, look, I started with Jamal Charles, then I had Peyton Hillis, and it's just been downhill from there. Look, it was fun to play. Now, in my favorite league, the league I've been in the longest, just went from 5th to 1st place. So I'm feeling pretty good about that one.
Oh, congratulations.
There you go. Now, if I can just beat you at theofficepool.com, then I've got something to brag about.
You've got a ways to go still.
Oh, look at that. That isn't right. All right, my man. Good stuff as always. We'll catch up with you next week. We'll get involved more in the playoff push, talk about playoffs in fantasy football. Richard, have fun, my man.
Thanks a lot. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too. All right, we're going to hit